Oh, this is power on that tape is insane. Always flopped it. Welcome to our new On The Hook film. This guy is what I would call a vintage carp, extracted from a super thick weedy jungle and a really old mature lake. God knows how old this fish is, but he's a proper vintage creature. The sort of carp that we call a connoisseur's fish, the sort of carp that keeps me awake at night. Black, old, gnarly and secretive, you know. He's been living in this lake for maybe 30 or 40 years, which is incredible to think about. So the session's got off to an absolute flying start, better than I could have imagined. So I'm going to enjoy a moment with this guy and then slip him back, and I'll show you how I extracted him from that weedy jungle, and dare I think we might even get another bite. There's fish in the area, weather's not bad, but at the moment I'm very happy with this guy. Special times. Sort of fight that ages you. My beard has just gone twice as white as what it was an hour ago. Just epic. Thunderstorms all around, rumbling in the sky, fish rolling on the spot, fizzing up. And we've only just got here, we've only just started fishing for this On The Hook program. Unbelievable. Well, there you go. I mean, to get two fish in such short order that look like black old serpents is well beyond my expectations. But to be fair, the weather has really swung in our favour. Although we haven't been fishing for this session very long, the hot weather, the really oppressive heat seems to have dissipated, and we've got thunderstorms rumbling around and a bit of a northeasterly wind, and it certainly seems to have turned the fish on. Let's hope it'll turn the mosquitoes off for tonight, because it's quite overgrown around here. But very, very pleased with this guy. Absolutely sensational old common carp. When you're out filming a session for On The Hook or any kind of carp fishing film, there is always the unspoken pressure to catch a fish, and where we've come hunting these old black vintage connoisseur commons and mirrors is certainly no duffer's venue. It's certainly not a walkover. So to get two fish this afternoon as quickly as we did took us all by surprise. You know, we were there's gear everywhere, and there was a quick opportunity to be taken, so we took it. And it necessitated reacting to fish that were rolling in an area and fizzing, and getting a couple of rigs in the area, using the catapult to fire a few krill actives over the top, and it resulted in those very, very quick bites, which, as I said, it's great to get, you know, that pressure off. We've got fish, we're up and running, but it took us by surprise to the point that we just felt so disorganised. We're practically just setting up, and bang, we're into a fish, and bang, we're into another fish. And that's not normally how filming fishing sessions goes. The fish usually come after a load of blood, sweat and tears, and they may be the only fish we catch. I hope they're not, but they could be, because, as I said, you know, we're not on some little stock pond where the fish give themselves up easily. We did get lucky, and 2 amazing looking commons to boot. So since then the fish seem to have stayed very much in the area, so there's no need to move, and I'm going to carry on fishing the little spots where it's a bit silty. There's a bit of silkweed, I've got light leads, little pop-ups, and a few boilies over the top. We'll look more in depth in that as the session progresses. At the moment we've got a beautiful sunset going down over there. There's the odd carp rolling about. We're going to do tonight, being an on the hook film, we don't want to just catch fish at 2 in the morning with strobe lights and everything, you know, because you guys won't get the best out of seeing these amazing carp, and they're very, very special, believe me. So what I'm going to do is bait the area this evening and not fish it. It's something that I do quite a lot in my own fishing anyway. I call it free safe food. It's an application I've written about a lot in the media, and it focuses on trying to stimulate the fish to feed with confidence and without anything upsetting their kilter, so to speak. And the idea being that the greedier they get, the more fish arrive and the easier they get to catch. And it's a process that I've used for years, well over a decade, home and abroad, and it has brought me some of my best catches. So it fits in really, really well to utilise that process during this film, because again, if we catch any fish, at least they'll be in daylight and you guys can see the fight and enjoy the splendour of these majestic carp, rather than see them lit up by strobe lights at night. So as I said, the sun's just dropping down now. I am famished. I'm covered in weed, silt, slime. I've got that lovely smell of carpy success over me, and we're still on day 1, so very, very happy. I'm going to get some order to the camp, tidy up a bit, cook some dinner. I'm going to fire out probably a kilo or so of boilies around that area where the fish have been favouring, and then put the rods out in the morning. And we've got a full day tomorrow to crack at it. We're going to look at the rig, we'll look at a little bit of technical application, we'll look at safe weed fishing and how to get fish out of that forest of weed that we're faced with and to the landing net without anything going wrong. So that's where we're at. 2 fish to the good. We're going into the first night, but we're not actually fishing, which might surprise some of you, but I've explained why. And hopefully that little roll of the dice, of that investment of putting in some bait tonight and not fishing, will pay off big dividends tomorrow. So we shall see. Well, it's our first full day on our quest for a mythical black common carp. We are 2 fish to the good, which you saw yesterday, and then just as it was getting dark, almost the light was just going, I was about to bring the rod in and rest the swim for the night, and I had the most violent of bites that I've had in a long time, which resulted in a really gnarly, small but gnarly and very old looking mirror. One of those fish that just looks kind of stunted, you know, biggish head, but just really, really gnarly. And he was a very nice little present before bedtime. So after that, didn't put the rod back out again, and got the catapult out and spread about a kilo of krill boilies around the swim to hopefully keep the fish occupied and get them feeding confidently during the hours of darkness. Confidently feeding fish are eminently much easier to catch than cautious fish, and when you give fish bait without any pressure, it can be a real, valid tactic, very valuable weapon to use. So that's what we've done. It's bright and hot, and it's still early, but it's time to get the rods out. Now, looking at the way the lake behaved yesterday, there was a marked peak in activity during the afternoon phase. When we got here and we got those fish, quick captures by casting to where they were fizzing in the weed and the silt. After that, it seemed to die off, which, given the sort of topography and climate of the lake, it's a very shallow lake. Well, everywhere's gone shallow at the moment because everywhere's so dry, but it's a shallow lake anyway, and it is top to bottom with weed. We're fishing a few little sort of clearings in the weed where you can just see where the weed doesn't reach the surface, you know, with a light lead and a helicopter rig and a slow sinking bait, and that seems to have worked. But that amount of weed in quite a small amount of water, really, because it is so shallow and there is so much weed, means that during the day the weed's pumping out oxygen, and then at night it's the opposite, and it will strip the oxygen out of the water. So on lakes like this, and it's been particularly evident this morning, you get a very, very diminished morning activity because the fish are lethargic, the oxygen's very, very low. As you get a bit of sun on the water, and that will obviously work with the weed and the photosynthesis, and it will create the oxygen. So judging by what we've seen yesterday and what I've seen on one previous trip up here, the afternoons do seem to be a very, very good time. So it's still early, you know, we're not expecting a bite yet, but we're going to get a rod in position, put a few baits around it. I've made up a couple of rigs. I'm just fishing very, very simple multi-rigs, you know, just where you just slide the loop over the hook, and if you get a fish you just change the hook and you haven't got to change the rig. It's a lovely, simple way to fish. And I've got a low lying or low sitting krill pop-up on the ring on the back of the hook. So simple fishing, you know, all we've used so far is our eyes, a catapult and a cast. Hopefully that will work for us today. We've got probably until sundown tonight to see if we can catch one of these fish that we're here for, you know, the quest for the connoisseur's carp, the black, mythical, ancient, gnarly creature that just lives in a silty, weedy world of darkness, and very rarely gets touched by hand of man, you know. It's lovely and quiet. So let's see if we can trip up one of those. There's one or two good fish about, and you know, in my book a 20-pounder is still a big fish. If we get a black, gnarly 20-pound common, I'll be super made up, you know, like those fish that we caught yesterday we were blessed with. So hopefully the carp gods will shine on us. Hopefully the sun won't shine too much. I want a bit of cloud cover, maybe a bit of drizzle like we had yesterday, but we're in the hands of the carp god, so we'll see. But let's get fishing. Well, this is the rod that I placed in the little slot next door. It's literally the other side of the tree that we're sat behind, and just placed it down there on a travel route that you can see where they're taking between the weed beds. I've watched them taking that route, and just put 10 baits around it. And it's not a big fish this, but the run, when I got to the rod was almost in, and there was this massive eruption out there. Mega, absolutely mega. Look at this for a beautiful old snaggy channel full of weed. This is great. I always didn't like the feel of that net. There we go. Excellent. Whoa! So much weed in the net I can hardly lift it. That's the first one of the day. And not on the banker rod, you know, the bites have come on the other spot. So this was kind of like a little bonus thing that I set up to see if we could elicit a response. I mean, I did have a rod in here yesterday for a few hours. It didn't do anything, and I thought it looked good. You know, there had been the odd fish travelling through here, but I put it back down here about an hour ago, and it's produced a fish. First one of the day. Buzzing. Well, I'll let you judge for yourselves how special these carp are. You don't see too many of these about, do you? Maybe look a bit like they were trapped in the last ice age or something and landlocked in here, and They're just some relic from the past, and that makes them very, very special indeed. Came from the rod round the other side of the tree. Bit of a bonus spot really, because the other bites we've had have been on the other rod, but we'll take a bonus when it looks like this. Thank you very much. Well, when you're fishing in such demanding conditions, the rig usually does come back a bit mangled, as this has. It's in a right mess. Like me, it's covered in weed and silt. I'm going to tidy this up, put a new sharp hook on, put a fresh bait on, and I'll show you how it should look before it goes into the lake. So this is how the rig should look, ready for a presentation case hopefully. Certainly ready for the next carp that comes along hopefully, but you know, I joke about that, but every rig that you make should be able to go in a presentation case in a museum or something. You know, make your rigs with pride, pay good attention to detail and create a work of art. I think that's really important. So we've got the multi-rig, nice and easy. All I had to do was slip the loop off to change the hook, and we're back in action. Remold the putty, strip the bits of weed and debris off, and put on a new krill pop-up, which as you can see is set low, slightly overbalanced. I don't want a rig that's wafting around really light, so that putty is added just so that it goes down about the same speed as a normal boilie would, so it's just normal buoyancy. So we've got that ready to go. I'm going to move the top bead up a little bit because it is a bit weedy down there, and I'm going to swing it into position, trap the lead before it goes in. Probably only in about 2 foot of water or so, but they're travelling through there. Put another 10 baits around it and we'll set it and see if we can snare another carp as the afternoon progresses. A long time ago, an old boy gave me one of the best bits of angling advice I've ever been given. It serves me well to this day. Catches me a couple of extra fish every year probably, and that is that if you ever think you should have had a bite and you haven't, redo the rod, because it may well be that something is not right. Your rig could be laying across a twig, or could be caught on a bit of weed or something, I don't know. But this situation is a good example. There have been fish in and out of the zone, seen them on the surface, seen them fizzing around the spot, and there's been a couple of times where I thought it's going to go in a minute, and it hasn't. It is a very weedy area, so I'm just going to bring in the rod, clean it off, clip it up again, and get it back on the spot, just in case something is not right. So that's the next job. If in doubt, redo the rod. Yet again, it's paid off with a bite after the rig being down there for several hours and nothing. That tactic has produced a bite within, I don't know, 20 minutes of the rod going back out. Just hope he doesn't bed himself down too much. Okay, he's completely wrapped up in a wet green overcoat now, which could work to our advantage and keep him quiet. And this is why you need super strong gear for weed fishing. You know, it doesn't take prisoners. You need thick line, thickest line you can get. Strong hooks. Is he in there? Can't see anything. Please. no chance. Right, I'm going to have to clear that ball of weed. Hope he just sits there quietly for a minute. You hold the rod. Keep bending it. That's as unconventional as it gets, but look, he's in the net, the battle's won. Well, that was exhilarating jungle warfare on every level. The battle's won, fish is in the net now. As I said to you guys, we're just doing a day session, you know, although we got here yesterday, we didn't fish a night, we're just fishing today, so we've only got a few hours left. I'm done in, the fish is done in. So I'm going to just let him rest in the retainer. I'm going to slip the net into the sling, secure the sling, put a new hook on, cast out, and then we're going to sort the fish out in 5 or 10 minutes time. It will give him a chance to get his breath back and me to do the same. Afternoon madness. Whoa. Bring him back. That's a big fish, look. There he is. It's the same deal as last time with this ball of weed up the line. Well, it's not a monster, is it? Gone. He's gone. So much weed, it's impossible. Need to find there's the leader. Can't be in that, can he? Oh, he is there. Oh! Oh man, this is good one as well. Look at that. Oh man, epic weed fishing, amazing. Gonna need a bigger net. Oh wow. Well, that proves two things. One, the virtue of getting a rod recast when you think you should have had a bite. Secondly, if you caught a fish and you've got a narrow window for bite opportunity, get the rod back out there. You know, that came so quickly. You've got to make the most of these times. And suddenly, from scratching my head a little bit, we got two amazing carp. It's going to take a lot of sorting out though. Well, we've all had a chance to calm down a little bit and take stock of things. I've not had a chance to unwrap this guy. He's in the sling with the landing net, taken the rig out before I did that obviously. So we can have a look, first glimpse at this creature together. He might be a little bit, they're all so lively because they're spawned out and it's height of season, but let's have a look at what our prize is. So this is the first guy. So this is a one that came from the old rule, if in doubt, always recast. Carved from a block of obsidian. Amazing. They're so powerful, you look at them and they're just solid muscle and just survivors from the past, and you think, how do you even get them into the bank for all this weed? Amazing. Well, as you know, we've got an even bigger one than this in the sling, which we're going to have a look at next. But thank you, mate, we'll let you go.
What is he saying, Jaws? You wait till the taxidermy man's gonna have a heart attack when he sees what I bought him. Yeah, this is what we came for. 28. You are a very big old fish. That is mission accomplished. We came for a relic from the past. We got more than we bargained for, and then this creature came along at the end, an absolute monster. His eyeballs are bigger than mine. Look at them. Incredible silt-stained, massive, perfect mouth. Great big tail. Carp like this are my lifeblood. Look at the shape of that mouth where it's overslung. Just as good as it gets. We're going to fish for a couple more hours. Don't care what happens. Amazing. Thing of beauty. Right, mate, we're going now. Mwah. That's as good as it gets. Thank you, carp gods. Just a little chat on the bait that I'm using. Very, very simple, basic, straightforward boilie fishing. I do find that when you are dealing with old carp that live in very, very weedy lakes, they do have a strong preference for fish meal type baits, particularly at this time of year. It's the height of the summer. The water column is alive with aquatic life. There's all sorts of shrimps and hog lice and snails and little mussels and so on, and a bait like a really rich, good fish meal like the krill. This is krill active, which means that it's the classic old krill boilie, but it's got a paste shroud around the outside, and that slowly breaks down over a period of time, releasing all kinds of nutrients and attractors into the water. And the thing that I've found when I've been using the active baits over the last couple of years now is that when you are applying it in a situation that's getting fish traffic, and you're putting in a bit, catching a fish, putting in a bit, catching a fish, that spot develops in quite a profound way, much more than you would get just by normal boilie application, because you get this residual carpet of broken down paste, crumb, betaine, greenlit mussel, all that goodness that's down there. So in a normal boilie fishing situation, the fish come in and eat boilies, and there will be no stain or shadow of what went on. And when they come in and eat these, there is very much a stain. There's mess all over the floor. They eat the baits, but it's still there, you know. So that's the bait that I use for this sort of fishing, and it's served me really well for a long, long time. These fish have absolutely, they're really turned on by it. One has already been passing out the bait actually on the mat, so very digestible, passes through them quickly, but it is a rich bait, and they can utilise a lot of the protein and goodness that's in there. So I'm fishing a pop-up over the top, but it's a brown pop-up, it's a krill pop-up, so ostensibly it will smell the same. It's got the same package of attractors, it just hasn't got the paste shroud. Obviously if you put a paste shroud around a pop-up, then the buoyancy of the bait is indeterminable, because it's going to be changing all the time. So the pop-ups are just a straight boilie on the multi-rig that I showed you, and then I'm just dotting the area with the catapult with these krill active boilies over the top. Holy crap! If you've watched any of my stuff before, guys, I've got the backrest, you'll know that I fish a very tight clutch on the take, so that the fish is
hopefully under control from the get-go, you know, so important. Well, that was just like the slackest clutch in the world. The fish just ripped off with impunity. There's a massive sheet of fizz come up out there where he's hit the bottom. Crazy. Let's just hope we can get him in. I mean, he's a long way out. He just charged through. I couldn't stop him. He just flat rodded me. This is where you just got to keep the pressure on. And the problem that I've got is my line is going down to a ball of weed and then out to the fish, so I haven't got direct contact. He's going again. This is insane. Massive fizz up. We've not had one fight quite like this. Every turn that I get back on the reel is, oh, he's going again. Huge sheet of fizz again. Every turn that I get back on the reel is a massive sense of relief, but oh, this fish is testing everything to the limit now. Loads more fizz coming up. It's slowly coming this way, but I'm bringing carp and 60 pound of weed probably. There he is. There's just a boil coming up there on the back edge of the weed, which is good because we want him to be in the upper layers rather than boring down deep. And that's a positive thing about this lake being so shallow. You know, if you were dealing with 10 or 12, 15 foot of water with as much weed, very difficult then. And at least here they can't bore down too much. All we can do is just keep slowly bringing it towards us. I'll have to get into chesties at some point and try and get the whole lot into the net. Hopefully he'll stay on. We pretty much destroyed that whole weed bed in front of us now. Where I've had that weed on the line out of the water now for several minutes, the water's drained out of it, so it's become a bit lighter. It's not putting quite as much sag on the line, but still an enormous weight to pull with this 3 1/4 pound air curve. I'm going to have to ask my cameraman to get my chesties. Is that right, Damo? Cheers, buddy. Come on. Insane amount of weed. Oh, there's a carp down there. It made me jump. I was just feeling in the weed and then suddenly, right, there is a fish still. So, unorthodox as it gets. Don't do this at home, kids. I've never picked up a carp out of the water and bundled him into a landing net before, but yeah, sometimes you have to use any and all means. Well, I don't know if you can see from there, but we've got the most incredible, beautiful, quite a good one as well, probably 25, yeah, he's a good one. But we have got a staggering amount of weed in the net, which I need to take care of before I can even think about moving the fish. So that's job number one. There's the pop-up. Well, just as the sun is setting behind me, final fish of the trip. Crazy lucky, crazy lucky. Immaculate in every way.
old, just what we came for. Scales are so, they're almost like there's no edge to them in places. They're just so old that they're just burnished off, like sanded down. When his head came out of the water, he looked like a leather or something. I was like, whoa. The ultimate weed bed fight, this guy. Flat rodded me in the lake on a super tight clutch. Immense power. Very, very lucky to get him in. But hope you guys have enjoyed watching. It's been an absolute thrill. I'm covered in weed, silt, excreted krill. I've got a mosquito bite in my neck. Yeah, it's home for a cold Moretti and a hot shower. But what a buzz. That's why we do it. Fish that just make you wanna, yes, amazing. Thank you. I'm gonna send this guy off to his dark mystical depths, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. Thanks for watching.